Hey everybody, and welcome back to Jim's Garage. In this video we're going to be checking out a new authentication app that was given to me by the community, and it's called Tinyauth. It does exactly what it says on the tin. It's a very small, lightweight authorization middleware that sits on Traefik. Now this is comparable to something like Authelia and does some of the features as well that you'd find in things like Authentic, but it really is designed around being lightweight and minimal. What's cool about this project is it's seen some explosive growth since January, really excited with 1.6k stars since then, and also the guy who's done it is only 15 years old, which is awesome and another reason why I had to showcase this project to put that in the limelight. I wish I was doing something like this when I was 15. So in this video, we'll have a look at what Tinyauth is, how you might want to use it, and then we'll go through all of the configuration steps and test it out. The key features here really are that it's dead simple to set up with Docker Compose files, and it also integrates with things like OAuth, which we can integrate with Github, and I'll show that in this video later. It does have other providers, so please do go and check out the documentation. There's also a number of environment variables as well that you'll want to check out and tailor this to your setup. So as a quick demonstration of what this looks like, here you can see I've loaded Tinyauth and I've actually integrated already the GitHub OAuth. That's not there by default, but we'll get this set up by the end of the video. You can change this to other providers that are supported as well if you want to. But effectively, all we need to do is log in with a username and password, and then we can access any services that are put behind this. I'll demonstrate what that looks like now. So for this quick demonstration, I've actually put IT tools behind this. So when I go to IT tools, it's going to ask me to log into Tinyauth. So I've just set up some users for testing, and if I log in with Alice, fingers crossed we should get welcome back. We can hit continue and we should be into it as we would expect. So let's now have a look through the configuration and find out how we can actually deploy this. Thankfully the deployment is really simple, and all I've got here is the Docker Compose file, the corresponding .env file, and also a users file. We'll go through those in a moment for exactly what that means, but as I've already stated, this bakes into Traefik. So all of this is controlled through basically Traefik labels. The key things really to look at are this forward auth here, which sets up a forward authorization address, and that's pointed at this container. And then for the demonstration I just showed, if we go to IT tools, in the IT tools Docker Compose file, the key thing here really is just to add this middleware. So the one we just created, this one over here, we simply reference that on any container that we want to take advantage of Tinyauth. So here you see it on IT tools, but say I wanted it on homepage, or I wanted it on say Jitsi or Jellyfin, something like that, we would just put this label here onto the corresponding Docker Compose file and then just redeploy that container. So let's head back now to Tinyauth and let's go through the configuration for this. It is worth checking out the documentation as well, because there are things in there that I'm not going to cover in this deployment. Now one thing to point out is because this is going through lots of active development, things are likely to change. So please do go and check out the latest version and check out the documentation as you're going through this. The first thing really we need to do is to set some environment variables. So here we've got a secret which is used for the cookies, and that's just saved in the environment folder. You can generate that secret with the following command, and then you just paste it into your .env file. Next up we set the app URL, so this is the URL where my Tinyauth is accessible, and it's the same as the one I've put down here in the Docker labels. After that we get on to the part where you've got a bit of a choice of how you want to do this. So traditionally you can go with users and you can just delete this comment here and you could paste in a string of users. That would be the username and then a colon and a hashed bcrypt password of the actual password for that user, each separated by a comma. I prefer to go down the users file route. So in the users file route over here, in here you can see that I've created the Alice one that I used earlier, and also a Bob, and then the third one that's obfuscated, that is actually the account for my GitHub account, which we'll set up later with OAuth. So go ahead, create those accounts, put as many as you want into that users file. That's what's going to be loaded, and those are the accounts that are going to be valid for login. After that, I've set the log level to be 0, just so I had some advanced debugging. And then we get onto the GitHub part. So as I mentioned, there are multiple OAuth clients, so choose the one that you want to use. I think at the moment it's GitHub and Google. I think there's Tailscale as well, but that'll probably change in the future. So you need to go and grab your client ID and client secret. And to do that, you basically need to follow the instructions on the website. So all you need is an application name, the homepage URL, which will be the DNS name of the service, but I don't actually think that that's important. And then the actual callback URL, that's the important part. So the completed one in my instance would look like this. You'll obviously need to tweak the domain to your settings, and then you just need to register the application. Once you've registered the application, you're going to need to grab this client ID here, and then you're going to need to click generate a new client secret. When you click that, you'll get a new secret like here, and then you'll want to copy and paste both of those details back into your corresponding Docker Compose files. So grabbing those, we'll want to take those secrets and find the corresponding section in your .env, paste those in to your .env file, and you should be good to go. Now, one really important thing when you're doing the OAuth is that you want to be able to restrict access, and that's where the OAuth whitelist comes in. So if you don't put that in, basically anyone with a GitHub account would be able to log in. So in your .env file, under that OAuth whitelist, add in now your email address for your GitHub account, and that should restrict it just to yourself. You might want to just put in a bogus email here for testing purposes, just to make sure that things are restricted to you. After that, we only really need to add the .users file, which is that one here, and then we're going to mount that into the container where it expects that file to be. And then we've got it placed on the proxy network because this runs behind Traefik, and that's on my proxy network. And then, as I mentioned before, we have the standard Traefik labels, but we add in this special one down here, which is that forward auth address, so that any container will be pointed towards this service for the authentication journey. And that's set to be external true because I created it in a different stack. Now, there is a configuration file available on the GitHub for the project that has the Traefik in there in the same stack. So you can use that if you want, but I'm guessing that most of you have probably got this set up already. So once you have everything configured, go ahead and deploy this container, and then you'll probably want to check the logs just to make sure that you haven't made any mistakes. I made a few mistakes when I was first getting going with some of the formatting of the user strings and passwords, but I put the commands in here, and you can always check out the official documentation to make sure that they're in the right format. If you do have any errors, you will see those in the container logs. Because I've got that container open, i.e. I'm looking at it in this demonstration, it should look something like this for a healthy log. If it's not healthy, it will be pointing out what the error is. So if we try now to log in to the IT tools, we should get directed to Tinyauth. And then now, instead of doing the username and password, let's check that I've got everything up and running. So if I click GitHub, it should now take me to GitHub to sign in. Now that I've added my 2FA, it's going to say whether it wants to authorize me. So I'm going to say yes, authorize me. And fingers crossed, I should be able to now get into IT tools. This looks promising. And yeah, perfect. We've now authenticated using an OAuth provider provided by GitHub. So that's pretty epic. We can now put all of our services through that same authorization workflow. Now, one additional thing we might want to do is to create a MFA, so a second factor authentication. And thankfully, Tinyauth does support that. So we're just going to go and follow the documentation here. So the first thing we need to do is to generate that secret. So as it says on here, we will need to take our existing username hash, and that'll be what you can find in that user file that you created. So go and grab that, and then we're going to copy this command and we're going to run it. So running the command, it should go and pull it. We now need to enter the username hash. So I'm just going to paste this one in, which is this Alice with the password value. And hopefully if I hit return, yep, as it says, we get a massive QR code. So I'm now going to go and get my mobile phone, and I'm going to scan this QR code, or we can actually use this secret code at the top here. I might just do that because it's easier. And we can go and add that to, say, something like Bitwarden. Importantly, we do need to grab this here, this user equals Alice, because if you look at the end, it's actually now got the string, that secret for our TOTP token. So we want to copy that. We want to head back into our user file, and where we had Alice previously, we're going to paste that over the top. Once we've done that, we want to hit save, and then we're going to need to rebuild this container. So after removing the container, we want to redeploy it. So that should now have restarted. Let's now go back into the browser, and hopefully we'll be able to log in with Alice, but now with a TOTP. So now if we enter Alice, and I put in my password, when I hit return, I should be asked for that code. Pasting that in and hitting verify, you can see that we're verified and now we're logged in. So perfect, we've now got multi-factor authentication working as well. And that's pretty much it in terms of how simple this is to get up and running. You saw how lightweight it is and how quickly you can configure this, add in things like OAuth. I'm really excited to see how this continues to develop, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to do this video, to shed more limelight on it. And I think it's just amazing how it's developed from a 15-year-old in just what, nearly 4 months? Awesome work. Anyway, if you've liked this video, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, everybody.